Thank you, and welcome to the Agency Balance Podcast, where we talk about marketing, tech, real-life self-improvements, and things that make you happy to find your balance. Agency Balance is sponsored by Smartiker, a marketing technology agency that creates solutions that align B2B marketing, sales, and service to drive results throughout the entire customer journey. Get the MarTech experts. Get Smartiker.com. Here is your host of the Agency Balance Podcast, David Snyder.
Welcome to another episode of the Agency Balance Podcast. I am super thrilled to bring Jeff Johns is a people-focused engineering and product leader with over 20 years experience in the software space. And I went to school with Jeff at business school, and we got reconnected recently. And I just think he has such a fascinating story, his evolution, as well as what he's been doing for this last year. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't think we can name the business school we went to, but when was that, 1999?
Yeah, I think so. 99, we graduated.
That was, it's crazy. I look back at that period and I'm like, I had no idea what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. I just remember my dad saying, you're either going to work full-time or go to school full-time, or you got to get out. And I was like, I guess I'll go to school. There was probably 30, 40 of us maybe.
Yeah, it was a pretty small school, small class for sure.
It was a good time.
It was. I think what I liked about it so much was like the intimacy of it being so small. And the other thing for me is like, I think we were pretty much all local based. There wasn't like anybody like coming from far, but it was like all the cool kids from all the cool high schools came to art school.
Yeah. In a bowling alley.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
True story, folks.
Very unique experience. So, but met some fascinating people, some great people, yourself, a few others that I still talk to today. So, really, really fun time. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, I think for me, I've been taking the last year off of work. I know that sounds crazy. Most people listening are like, what a jerk, he gets to go, take a year off. But it was something I think as I had the opportunity to do this, I needed to do for myself. I've been working hard for a long time. I think with my personality type, it's not easy to take a break. I just want to keep going. And hey, give me another thing. I would have people around me say, hey, you have too much on your plate, and I wouldn't listen. And I think by the time I ended my career at FormStack, if I didn't take a break, I was probably going to break. I was really stressed out, and I did it all to myself. But it's this last year has been full of like reflection on how I got there and what I need to do to go forward, and how I can make myself continue without pushing myself to the brink of disaster, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for sharing that. And I definitely want to dive into kind of the year break, because I think a lot of our listeners can benefit, or if they're contemplating it. But, backing up a little bit, how you got started, I think that would be really interesting. Okay. So it's like, how did you get started? So you were at Tribune, Morning Call was a local newspaper here. Is that where you got started? Or, talk about how you got started. And if I remember correct, you were like, I don't know if you were like creative or dev, or at some point you were like, I'm just going to go zeros and ones because they just work. And there's no like figuring out creative and having opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't start at Tribune. I started at, I won't name the company, but they make all natural supplements. And it was my first job. Like when we went to school for design and 3D animation and film, like I love that stuff. I really liked the 3D animation. Tried to find a job in the Lehigh Valley that does 3D animation. 1999 wasn't going to happen. So I took a job making catalogs, and it was a terrible experience. It wasn't creative at all. I don't think I was that good at it. And so I left, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went and worked in a factory, and we were making car parts, and we were making parts for your bathroom. And I was, the way that worked is you worked on piece rate. And so the more pieces you finished, the more you got paid. But there was like a mathematical equation to that. And not that it was complicated, but a lot of people were like, struggling with this complication, so I was doing it for them on paper. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna write a desktop app for this. I knew nothing about it. It was a little Visual Basic app, and I installed it on all the computers. And the owner of the company was like, "Who put this on the computer?" And I thought, I'm fired. Like, I'm dead. Little did I know, she had like this little web design like side business, and she was like, "Hey, instead of powder coating all these parts, why don't you come work for me in the office? And I'll send you to school for PHP, like take a class or two." And I did, and I just kind of fell in love with it. So I got my start through. I left design because yes, it was too, I don't know, like it wasn't definitive enough for me. Yeah, so I got my start by chance, and I worked for her for 5, 6 years, just designing websites. I did the design. I was terrible at it. Did the programming. I learned about databases. I mean, if you really think back at it, you probably had 30 users on those websites. So it's not like you were going to scale anything, but it was like a good learning experience. And I left there and I went to the morning call into the interactive department, is what they called it at the time. That was a really unique experience because it was like newsroom versus interactive. It was shocking to me that the two departments didn't work well together. But that was a really good experience because I had some knowledge of programming, and now I could do it a little bit at scale. A lot more users at the morning call at mcall.com than there were at the other places that I was working for. So I crashed a whole bunch of systems. I made a whole bunch of mistakes. It was a great time. But that's where I kind of got my start into people management after 2 or 3 years there. And all the things people might say about the morning call, the one thing they were really good at is when you became a manager, the training. And I really needed that. And I kind of fell in love with that part of my career, which was a technical manager helping people get to where they needed to be, which started this long journey into the startup world, which I never knew I would fall in love with, but wear many hats. You're not doing one singular thing. And I worked for Vittler for a few years here in Bethlehem. If anybody's familiar with that, great little company. Left there, did my own thing with a couple friends, and ended up at FormStack.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that journey. I think I could tell it's in your DNA that you're a problem solver, but you're also a people person, and that makes the best of both worlds. I think I'm kind of cut from the same cloth that, you know, I love. It's like if I don't have a challenge, and I think that's probably why you are where you were, or you got to that point where you even said it was like, I got to take a break because I'm on to the next problem. I want to fix the next thing. And there's this satisfaction as humans that we get when we complete a task and when we fulfill and we complete something. We check our box. That is that happiness that comes, and then we're like, that's just that feeling. And then there's this programmed in our own brains of saying, I need to be on to the next thing. And I think that's probably what kind of got you into that little quote unquote rat race. No?
Absolutely. And I think there's a part of that too, where I think as you become a people manager or leading teams, you know, you're running a company right now, you absorb everybody else's problems. And that's a dangerous thing. It's a good thing, but it's dangerous because I have a hard time letting those things go. I actually had to start like meetings with people and say, "Do you need me to solve this for you? Or do you just need me to listen here?" And because I would go straight into problem solving, and I'd get done with work and I couldn't turn my brain off. And I'm thinking about everybody else's problems and mine. So it became a big challenge, one that I still really enjoy. I love, but I have to tame it a little bit. I know that about myself. Like, not everything has to be solved today. And that was a journey. Like, there's always going to be things to solve. I think for me, I need to continually learn and get better at thinking about learning and not solving.
Yeah. 3 really great points you said there. I just want to repeat those. And we inject this in one of our values is always be learning, no matter where you are. I think if you're like leveling up and you think there's nothing else that you need to learn, you're sadly mistaken. The other thing is, you said was, you know, coming into a meeting is asking that question: do you need me just to listen, or do you need me to solve a problem here? And that's really important. If you're requesting a meeting with your manager, don't just go in there assuming that you just want to, you know, bitch. and just spew, right? Like go in there, be factual about what you need, but be proactive in what you want the outcome to be, and be prepared to be a part of the solution too, because that's what every leader is going to want to do. They'll open their door and listen, right? So those are really great points there. I think, for me, yeah, it is really challenging, because when you're in management, you're combining, you're taking everybody's problems and you assume that you need to fix those. But I think that the key thing for me, what I found, and I don't know, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, is it's almost kind of role reversal. It's just being a really good listener and then playing back and then guiding them to figure out the solution, because they're there for a reason. You trust them. But, talk to me a little bit about that, of how do you coach, individuals, or, in the problem solving world. Talk me through maybe some examples there, or some things that come to mind.
Yeah, I mean, what took me a while and was really uncomfortable to do is when somebody asked me a question, hey, what would you do? I usually now flip that back and say, I don't know, what would you do? And because I want to get people thinking, I mean, my job is to get people to solve their own problems, right? If I become the bottleneck in that situation, that's a failure on my part. But I have to let people fail along the way and find the right path. Even if I know it's going to fail, like I can try to guide them a little bit, but I still think there's a really good learning opportunity in letting them fail and figuring out the right path. So I usually turn that question around. Another one I like to do, a lot of times if you step into a meeting and you are the highest titled person in the meeting, if you speak, people just take what you say and go execute, which is also dangerous. So a lot of times I would throw out bad ideas first, which I knew were terrible ideas, just to have somebody step up and be like, that doesn't sound right. What about X? Because now, like, people are thinking and people aren't scared to like talk in front of you. And so that's another advice I give to like first time managers and leaders. Hey, I know this sounds stupid, but throw out bad ideas in a group setting. Oh, no, I can't do that. Like, no, you want the other people in the room to be smarter than you. You want them to be comfortable around you. Like, that's why you hired them. You don't want to be the bottleneck. So I think just keep asking questions to guide people, and then make yourself look stupid so that people are comfortable around you. Again, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it really does work. Just be humble about it. There's plenty of times in leadership I have made poor decisions and I have made mistakes, and I've gone back to the team and said, I screwed this up. Here's the next way I think I'm going to go about this. I'm sorry about this. If you have better ideas, let me know. But I'm the type of person that will go tell you, I screwed this up. I'll feel bad about it for about 2.5 months, and then try to get to the next iteration.
What a great example of leading with failure and injecting that in there. I kind of do the same sneaky thing too. When I get invited to meetings, especially when it's like really tactical things, I don't want to talk at all. Sometimes I'll even take myself off camera because I just don't want to be the focus. And they're heightened when they're managers on a Zoom, and you're feeling, oh, I got to be so perfect here, and you end up snowballing yourself. But I love that example too, of kind of throwing out something that maybe isn't the best, and seeing where people take it. I've kind of done that over email where, or I've given examples where I know it's not right, but I'm trying to like coach them up. I'm trying to get them to think think differently.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I read something the other day. Stop meeting in person and doing brainstorming, and start doing asynchronous brain writing. And I was like, wait, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because now I don't have this person on the other side spewing ideas, and then people that I may not seem it, but I'm a pretty big introvert. And so I take time to take ideas in, take information in, I have to think about them. So in live meetings, I may be quiet. It's just because I'm thinking. And I've always done better. I know a lot of other people do better as well. If you can do that a little bit asynchronously in the beginning, throw out your ideas, put them on a Google Doc, everything there, let you think about them. Because then when you get to that meeting, it's really productive. Now I can have a good meeting. But I saw brain writing, which doesn't sound right. But I was like, man, that's really smart.
Yeah. two things there. The first thing was, I think it's okay. Like if you're an introvert or an extrovert, or like if you're feeling awkward, let's just say that, let's label it that way.
Yeah,
Let people know and be like, hey, listen, this is how I like to work. Just so you know, if I have a weird face or I'm not like talking, that's just me. I just want you to know. So let people know what your style is. And that's the first thing. The second thing, similar to what you're saying there, I know big companies, like I think like Google does this. I know some of my software partners do this, is before they start any sort of management or leadership meeting, of course, there's an agenda. There should always be an agenda, and with some detail. Before they start, they spend the first 15 minutes, everyone is in the Google Doc, looking it over, and then commenting.
Yep.
They're tagging people. They're making their thoughts, open-ended questions. They're getting all that stuff out of the way so that when it comes time to discuss or brainstorm or whatever it is on that task, you already have all that detail. So you get it all out. How great is that?
Yeah. I mean, we took that notion at FormStack because our engineering and product teams were remote from the beginning. So, I mean, we were spanning time zones from Pacific time zone to Central European. And so you need to. Like, there's about 2 hours in the day where you can actually get people together. And so if you're not thinking that way and you're not comfortable that way, you're probably going to fail. But I love that methodology. I wish just in general, more people would do that. You said something about agendas. You'd be shocked how many meetings you show up to, like in a larger company that have zero agenda. They just have a title. And it's like, this feels like a trap. And you usually don't accomplish anything during those meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, as leaders, you got to lead by example. So it's like, even if it's your meeting or something that maybe you're a part of it, just be part of it, right? Like put the agenda out there. When I send an email or an invite right via email, it's usually like detailed title, the purpose of the meeting. There's a purpose statement of what we're trying to achieve. Restate that. There should be a link to a Google Doc with agenda. Have actions. And the other thing is too, it's like, it's so simple little things, but like assign somebody in the meeting that is going to be responsible for recapping the actions. Yeah. Like make somebody that note taker and that action so that there's accountability there. There should always be accountability. There's a lot of great resources out there, like the 10-minute the 10-minute meeting, and I'll put some of those back on agencybalance.com so you can take a look at some of those resources and links to make how to run and how to be a part of an effective meeting. The other thing, what I always say, is be present in the meeting. It's like, do your best. Like, it is easy. We were talking about that before we got started. It's like, I've been on meetings where I'm just like putting my head down and I'm just like, dude, like if you were in the room live, you probably wouldn't do that. But like, just because you're at home or whatever, like be professional. Just be professional about it.
Yeah, and I think the other part of that is if you're not feeling the meeting or don't feel you can provide anything, don't go. Like respond no. Hey, I don't think this has anything to do with me. I don't like be professional in the way you respond as well, but don't go because that will actually hurt the meeting more than anything else. Everybody looking at somebody like not participating, probably slacking in the background about Joe. I don't know who Joe is. I made that name up. About Joe not paying attention, and now the whole meeting's kind of off. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit. So obviously you've worked for some startups, you work for some larger companies. You've been able to kind of take what I'm interpreting is like the best things about all those and kind of, built your career. But, when you got to that point where you're like, I am going to take a year off there, everything will be fine. Everything's going to be fine. You had that moment where you're like, I don't know if we should do this. Probably. I've been there. So what have you been enjoying this last year, being off, and, how have you been, staying sharp?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, I think what I've been enjoying is I've had a lot more time. Not that I didn't have a lot of time with my kids before, but, I'm taking them to school, picking them up, taking them to everything they need to. And I've really enjoyed that. I would say when they had off over summer, I was like, don't tell them this. When are you going back to school? I love them dearly, but it became a lot. So like seeing my family more, seeing Annie, my wife more, like being home with all that, it was fantastic. I think staying sharp wise, I started to write a couple apps that I abandoned because like different APIs weren't like I'll say productive enough for me to use in production. So I collect vinyl records. And so I have a script written that basically I have a want list. If you know a website called Discogs, where it's a marketplace, and I have a want list there that syncs up to Discogs and eBay and searches for all the different records that I want. And it sends me the lowest prices that it finds on the internet. And I was like, oh, I'll make this into a product, right? Me and 4 other people would probably use it, but I was like, I'll make this into a product. But some of the APIs there weren't conducive to be able to use. So that was a good experience. So still programming a little. Recently, in the last 6 months, I've been booking free mentorship meetings. So if you want to book some time, like I've had a few people take me up on that. I've had some really good conversations where I feel one big lacking part in our industry is when you become a new leader, it's probably in other industries as well. You become a new engineering leader or product leader, you're on your own. And what am I supposed to do now? Oh, now I have these people reporting to me. I'm responsible maybe for some pieces of strategy. I'm responsible for my team, like shipping things out to production. Oh my goodness, I don't know how to do any of this. So the one thing I wish I had at that time that I got at Tribune, but not at like other smaller companies, was just some guidance, somebody to talk to. I had no idea who to talk to about this. So I kind of just put myself out there for the last few months and I had some folks take me up on that, and just working with people to try and help them get to where they want to be. I think for me, that keeps me sharp when I re-enter the workforce at some point, because I don't want to lose all those skills. But I felt like I have an opportunity to give back to people right now in a way that I'm familiar with and that I enjoy. And I'm still behind this computer screen as my introverted self. So, but it's been really rewarding. I've talked to probably 10, 15 different leaders, some CEOs, some people new to their jobs. And I think it's opened up a lot of doors just in general to have different conversations like, hey, when are you going to go back in the workforce? Which has been interesting because that was not my goal whatsoever. But that's how I've been keeping sharp. I did a couple apps on my own and just keeping those communication windows open to help people. I think that's what I've enjoyed the majority of my life, more so than anything technical or design related. How can I help you get to where you need to be? So that's been really fun.
Well, that's probably really rewarding. I know when I have an opportunity and I have free time doing everything else, I like to do that as well. And it is something that I'm enjoying more and more as I've, gotten older and wiser. It was just my birthday too, everybday. So
today
it was on Monday. So
happy belated birthday.
Yeah. It's happy birthday. I spent my birthday flying from west to east, so it was great. But I did get a free sandwich on the airplane and a free coffee that day. So, it's the small things.
Was that airplane coffee?
No, I got the big chain coffee. You get one on your birthday, so I got that. I made sure I got that, and of course I got the biggest size because that's the way I am.
Yeah, you have to.
But it's very rewarding doing that. This is the agency balance, and we talk about balance a lot. What's your philosophy or what's your thoughts on balance? Because I don't want to assume anything, but you got to a point where maybe you were feeling out of balance and you needed to kind of reset. But talk about, what does balance mean to you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a hard one to answer too. I think for me, balance is finding the things you enjoy in life, whether that's work, maybe that's a combination of work, maybe it's a combination of things you do at home. Maybe that's 50-50, maybe that's 70-30, maybe it's 80-20. But it's finding that balance between what you want to accomplish outside of your home, what you want to accomplish with your family or enjoy with your family. And it's finding that ratio that works for you. I saw a really neat graphic the other day that said work-life balance, and it showed all these different outcomes. Some of them were all intermingled. Some were half and half. Some were 80-20. And so for me, it's, I have a job to do at work. I want to go do that to the best of my ability. At some point, I do want to shut my brain off. It's really hard working remote, because you are at home all the time. But I want to be able to shut my brain off at some point and move on to enjoy my time with my family. So that work-life balance is really important to me. And I feel like as I was starting to burn out, I was just so focused on work at that time, almost 24 hours a day, whether I was in front of a computer or not. I couldn't get it out of my head. There's a lot going on. I mean, Formstack was raising capital at that time. We had some health issues here, family wise. Like there was just a ton of stuff going on. But if you could find that balance, find what your balance is, I think that's important. Some people are going to want to be at work the majority of the time, and that's fine too. That's something that's not me. That's something, until I saw that graphic, to be honest with you, Dave, I was like, how can people do that? And then I was like, oh yeah, everybody's different. Like your balance is different than my balance. The way you interact with people is different than the way I interact with people. So I saw that and I was like, that's amazing. So I don't have a ratio in general. Mine's just, I want to feel good about what I'm accomplishing professionally, and I want to be a big part of my family. So that's really important to me. That's actually why I left like big companies and big business. So for me, that's long answer to get to. Mine's intermingled.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be equal either. I think that's the important thing. I think so many times I've talked about this before is you feel like you're out of balance because something is not right. So it's like your personal life, you want that to be, you want to have the most activities doing those things, the things that are making you happy. And then when you're starting to feel unbalanced is when those other things that don't make you happy are taking over. So what I always talk about, what I always encourage, and I think what you were saying there is kind of like prioritization is your superpower. And prioritizing the things that make you happy and starting with those. I learned from a coach early on, because you're absolutely right before saying about it is lonely as a leader. And if you don't have peers that to talk to, or maybe you do, and they're just not at that stage, but you need to have someone to talk to about this. I absolutely encourage, if you're kind of struggling there, look for a coach, look for a mentor. It's the first thing I did when I became CEO. I never was a CEO before. And it's like, you can read whatever books you want, but you have to do real life. So
do it.
Yeah. So like for me, it was just making sure that I just put those things that made me happy first, and just slow down a little bit. Just kind of like really say, these are only the two things I'm going to accomplish today.
And I'm okay with that.
And that should be okay. Right. And it is hard to break away being in a remote style. If you can keep a part of your house that's just solely for work. If you're working from home, just make that your workspace. But the other thing is like, move it around then. Like if you end up, because then what's going to happen is you've made that same spot, the same spot you've gone to every day, and you're going to be depressed about that spot. So move it around, or go to that local coffee shop, or go outside. Like just kind of keep things, just remember the days of when what you would do in the office, you moved your desk around.
Yeah.
Do the same thing. Do the same thing.
I love that idea. There's times I'm here. If I don't have meetings, I have another workstation in my garage. I wouldn't turn my camera on in my garage because it just doesn't seem right. Or I might sit on the back porch, right? And I just think it's good. Yeah, I think it's good for your mental state to kind of move around.
I love the garage because I put the garage door up. I have put my Zoom and. Well, I have put my camera on because, I am very proud of my garage. People that know me, I'm very OCD with cleanliness and things. And I've been on a couple calls. They're like, "Are you in your garage?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "That's awesome."
Yeah, I think it's like wherever you're comfortable for that day. Like at this time of year when it's a little cooler, I always want to be in the garage.
Yeah.
I just have the doors open. There seems like there's life. Like there's people walking up and down the street. It's just as ridiculous as that sounds too. Like it's just a fun time. I'm like, yeah, I like it out there.
Speaking of garage and cars, it's funny when you stepped away. You have a Beetle over your left shoulder, a Volkswagen Beetle model, don't you?
Oh yeah, that's my grandfather was like, he was a mechanic, and he had his own garage up in like Williamsport, but he had like a whole junkyard filled with Beetles. And so that was actually his. When he passed away, there's like a blue one and there's like a black one over there. Volkswagens were his favorite car. And I know they are pretty high up on your list as well.
Yeah, they are. And we bought your dune buggy when we were in school.
So weird.
It is. It's such a weird thing. I think we paid like $500 for it or $750 for it.
But it's not like you came to me and said, like you heard me talking about a dune buggy. Like your dad just found my dad.
Yeah, it was really weird how that happened, and yeah, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, your dad has the same name, right? And
No, my dad's name is
oh,
Fred.
oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny because like I'm a junior, and I was like, oh, that was weird. But yeah. And then it took my dad forever to kind of get it working. But yeah, he finished it. And every once in a while, my dad's not going to listen to this podcast because he doesn't know how to do any of that stuff. But it's mine. It's my motor. Now. It's mine. Yeah, it's my motor, and yeah, he's getting up there, and that's not a. For those, I'll put a picture of what a dune buggy is on the YouTube channel here. For what it just remember, it was like we painted it orange. We got rid of the green sparkle. Like a green
sparkle, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like metallic flake. They put like 5 pounds of metallic flake back in the 70s and everything, like in Vans, and it looks like Speedy from like Scooby Doo.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we probably put maybe $4,000 in that car, and it'll get more looks than like a Lamborghini.
It's really cool. My dad never in my lifetime when I was younger, we never had that thing running. Like we never took it out. Just always sat in the garage. But I used to just sit in it in the garage. I was like, what the hell is this thing? Yeah.
It's the most dangerous. It's the most dangerous, scary car. Like for those who are like, it's a Jeep thing. Like, you know, do the Jeeps with the doors hanging off. You think that's scary? Ride an 1,800-pound fiberglass car with a gas tank that you're sitting on next to a tractor trailer. That's scary.
No, there's like no roof. There's no doors. You just hop in.
Yeah, that's fun.
It's pretty sketchy, but it was cool.
Yeah, I love wrenching. Yeah, I was the other day I was chasing a wiring issue in the air cooled Porsche that I have, and I was just chasing it, and it was good because like I've been around cars enough to know to like the thought process and the steps I need to go. It's like, okay, fuse, and then it's not the fuse, and then okay, then it's like it could be one of these two things, and then you're chasing it back. Oh, it's probably a poor ground, and then it's like, no, well, I see this visually is problem. So I was like problem solving and ripping this all apart, and because like I had no brake lights on the one side, and I was like, well, I mean, this car's loud and attentive enough. I can't drive this around like this. So I'm like taking it all apart, and I took a picture of it, and I like posted it on Instagram, and one of my buddies was like, that doesn't look fun. That like, no thanks. No thanks.
But it is.
It was totally fun, and it was great. And that's what I just love tinkering. Mm-hmm. Do you love tinkering?
I do. I mean, I wasn't a car guy growing up. I don't know what got me into it the last couple of years. But this time off, and even a little bit before my time off, that was like my boss at Formstack. He saw me I was like, I am just not enjoying the majority of my day anymore. And we were having conversations, and he was like, listen, that happens to me sometimes too. You need to find something outside of work that you really enjoy. And so he was like, I'm taking classes on X. And I was like, okay. So I started messing around with cars a little bit. I was a long distance runner for a long time. Which I think if you have an addictive personality like mine, it's good, but also dangerous. And anything I get into, I'm going full in. So I started tinkering around with my Civic, and I was like, oh, I kind of like this. I know nothing about this. I was always intimidated by it, but I was like, I'm just going to, so what? If I break it and I can't fix it, I'll take it somewhere and they'll fix it. They'll laugh at me. And that was like my biggest thing. I don't want to be laughed at for screwing this up. But it's been really rewarding because there's this other element of problem solving and learning that I didn't have before. So it's so silly. Like I fixed our freezer instead of buying a new freezer, right? And it was like $7 to fix it. But I was like, oh, that was fun. I didn't know how to do that, but you can YouTube literally anything and be like, I can fix it now.
Yeah.
So just go do it. Just have fun. Find something you love. Problem solving is neat, Dave, because like whether it's cars or fixing a freezer or learning how to install like a new ceiling fan, like there's so many moments in your life that don't have to be at work to kind of get that rush of, yeah, I did it.
Yeah. I was telling my son he's doing like, I don't know what they call it now in school, but it's like shop. It's like engine, like he's doing like small engine repair, and he's like, Dad, I rebuilt a lawnmower. I'm like, you're gonna remember how to do that for the rest of your life, and it's
Awesome.
same thing. And so and you were talking about like how you got started with, before school, and you didn't really know what you were going to do, or it was like just go in the workforce. And I was just planning that. I was going to work in a hardware store, and I was like, I'm totally cool with this. I'm just working in a hardware store forever. And I learned so much there. And to this very day, I love working on analog things because we're so digital now. I get this rush of when it's not computer. And that's why I love like manual cars and no computers and all feel. It's just, oh, that's so great. I can't wait for this rain to stop so that we can go out and drive.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been waiting for the rain to stop. I just got quick jacks yesterday, which I'm sick of putting the car in the air. And I was like, oh, I'll get these. A little bit of a pain in the butt to set up. But because I have the new exhaust for the Subaru, and I'm like, I want to put this on, but I want to be a little safer than me on some jack stands in the driveway. So I'm waiting for this to stop. And my son's home today. He likes that. He keeps his attention for about 15, 20 minutes, right? Like he was helping me change. I put a new intake in the Subaru last week. And he's like, oh, I want to do this with you. So I'm like, here, and I'm explaining it. He just disappears like after like 10 minutes. I'm like, that's his attention span. Don't get mad over it. But yeah, I'm also waiting for the rain to stop.
That's so cool. All right, we're gonna switch it up here now.
Okay.
We're ready to play the Dave's Random 10 game.
Okay.
You can't study for this, so it's just total randomness. Whatever. All right, we're gonna start off easy. All right, because I saw you just take a sip, but I don't think it was one of these. All right, ready? Number 1, coffee or tea?
Coffee. All day. I roast my own coffee beans.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah. So I told you, anything I go do, like it's if you've ever watched Aziz Ansari, he does like this Joe Pesci moment in one of his skits, and I'm like, that is totally me. Like if I attach to an actor, I'm going deep dive into everything. So I was like, I wonder if I can roast my own coffee beans. What's this process look like? Yeah, and I still do. I love it.
Well, sign me up if you're doing like a friends and family. Like I would love to try it. I grind every morning, and it wakes everybody up, and I don't care.
Definitely coffee.
All right, football or football?
Are you talking about soccer?
Yes,
soccer all day. I don't think I still don't really. American football. People are going to hate me for saying this.
Yeah.
But it's like 4 hours of your life for like 15 minutes of activity. I'd rather watch European football. I don't know. I love it. All my kids play. Like, I absolutely adore it.
That's cool. It's 11 minutes of play, not even 15 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading some stat on that, and it was like baseball. Maybe baseball was like 14, 15 minutes. And I was like, it's a good like time. People love it. Go for it. It's just not my thing.
Yeah. This is really for any sport. Like watching it live is definitely different too. Like I just came from a live American football game. I'm a Raiders fan. And I was out in Vegas and they got their first win. And what I love about it so much is going to live games is there is definitely like a community aspect. Like there's people just observing that see each other every other Sunday when there's home games. And that's like their second family. It is.
Absolutely.
They go all out. The tailgating and everything. It's a lifestyle. It's like they live for that.
Yeah, it brings me back to, I don't know if for 3 years the Philadelphia Union had a tier 2 team in Bethlehem, the Bethlehem Steel, and we were season ticket members, but it was the same thing. Not a lot of people there, but it was great. Like you knew everybody in the stands. My kids were a lot younger at the time, but I felt comfortable. They could just run around the whole stadium, and I was fine with it. Like you knew everybody. It was great. Live sports, doesn't matter when it is. Beautiful moment. It
is. All right. Because we're not seeing it right now, which do you prefer, sun or snow?
Snow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a fall and winter type of person. I do like, I don't know. I don't like the sun. I'll take nighttime over, or if it's cloudy, that's perfect.
Oh, well, it's what we've been having for the last week here in the East.
Yeah.
Do you do any like snow sports?
No. Not
No,
at
you
all.
just love. Yeah.
I love the cold. I'm 44 years old. I'll throw that out there, and I still love playing in the snow. So if I can build a fort, if I can have a snowball fight with my kids, like that's a brilliant thing.
Yeah, it is great. I love a like a snowy day and you just look out into the trees and then like if you can have a fire, like that's to me is like the
Oh,
perfect like a fire in a yeah, that's great.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah. All right. Cat, dog, or goldfish?
Dog. I think we've always been a dog family. We've had goldfish that you win at like the fair or whatever. I think my kids buried them in the backyard. They all die in like 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, dogs.
Awesome. Yeah, we're definitely into dogs too. All right. A good book or popcorn in a movie?
Popcorn in a movie.
Yeah.
I'm just not a big reader. Like articles, yes, books. I used to have a good friend of mine that would read everything, and I'm like, I'm just learning through you. Like you just tell me all the important parts. I'll go check them out. I can't sit down with a book.
Yeah. I for me, like even well, I do love fictional like both fiction and nonfiction TV stuff. Like documentaries I love,
Yeah,
history stuff I love. And I think with reading I've gotten to the point where it's like if it's not furthering me and I'm not learning through reading or if, like business, that's the only type of reading I could do anymore. That's long form.
yeah. I've never like. It's just been hard. I think I'm just such a visual learner or like a visual person that I would even be reading my kids stories at bed and I would fall asleep. Like I'd be yawning and I'm like, I just can't make it past like 4 or 5 pages. There's something internally that's like, don't do this.
Uh, awesome. All right. Next one. This is because you're an engineer. I don't. You've probably heard this before. So doors or wheels? Do you know this?
No, I don't know this.
So like, what are there more of, doors or wheels?
I don't know. If I had, you want me to pick between the two, which I like
Yeah.
more?
Yeah. What do you think there's more of? Do you think there's more doors or wheels in the world?
It's got to be wheels.
Why do you think that?
I mean, it's how we transport everything. Yes, there's a lot of doors in your house and in an office or whatever, but there has to be more wheels. Think about all the trucks out there that are transporting goods, like 18 wheel. It's got to be more wheels.
What about? But if
Do
you,
you know the answer to this?
well, I didn't go down the rabbit hole. I like because what happens? What I always go is like, all right, well then walk into your kitchen. How many cabinet doors do you have?
Oh, what?
See what I mean? Then immediately you're like, this is hands down. We talk about this all the time, and somehow it comes up in meetings, and everyone's like, no, don't go down this route. Your whole afternoon, you're going to be like scratching your head, and you're going to be talking about it over dinner tonight. You'll be like, I don't know, it might be doors.
It might. Now that you brought cabinets into the mix.
But then there's like gears, right? Like a gear could be a wheel. There's a lot of gears and things, and like wheels and machinery and.
I'm just saying wheels. Somebody out there prove me wrong.
Okay, sounds good. This is I'm really intrigued by this next question. This is 8
Okay.
because you have animals over your left shoulder. So what is your favorite zoo animal?
Oh, my favorite zoo animal is an elephant. I love elephants. I think they can remember everything. It's like an emotional animal. They're big, but yeah, if you make them mad, you'll suffer the consequences. But I feel like they can be gentle, like, and they're a family-oriented animal. Like, when they have a baby, the whole family protects that baby with everything they have. And so I think elephants are a magnificent animal.
I'm a fan of the elephant as well. I like the elephant. Who doesn't like elephants? All right. These last two are a little bit more
Okay.
thought. There's a little bit more. These are deep. If you could tell your future you, what would be something you would change?
You know what? I don't think I would change anything, Dave. Because I feel like you get to a point, I'm really happy with where I'm at in life. And I feel like if I didn't have every single negative and positive experience along the way, I might be somewhere else today. If I didn't make all the mistakes I made, I probably wouldn't have met my wife at a retirement home. Uh, she is my age. She's not older than me, but we both work there. Right. And so there's all these things along the way that, yeah, I think if you were to change, your whole life changes. So I don't think I'd change a thing.
That's a great outlook. I love that. Well, then maybe this might be a tough one if you're not going to change anything. But what would be something you would keep in the future? What would be something you would keep?
So something I have now that I would keep.
Yeah, that you absolutely is your rock.
I mean, the easy one is for me, family relationship. I don't think my parents will listen to this, but growing up, like that's something I did not have. My parents were divorced. You were everywhere all the time. You were kind of searching for your people. I think whether you knew it or not, when you're young, when that happens, you're searching for your people. And so in my head, when I was like, hey, I'm going to enter a relationship with my wife long term, that's something I want to focus on and always focus on and have that good experience for the kids, because I feel like you have a really good building block for your kids growing up. They know that they can trust their parents are there for them. They can make mistakes. So that's something I would always want to keep. There's a lot of, this is not relationship advice, but there's a lot of ups and downs in a relationship. And I think a lot of people call it quits too early. And it's that there's never all good times. And you have to work just as hard as your relationship as you do in your work career to make it work. And I would give up my career any day to keep my family.
Well said. Well said. We're going to put a bow on that, and that's perfect. Jeff, if anybody wants to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so I'm definitely on LinkedIn. You can check me out there. You can also go to Jeff Johns, JOHNS.me. Just a little one-page website. You can reach out to me there as well.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.
I had a blast here, kind of riffing on back to some old times, and I know we'll stay connected. And for those who you want to learn more about Jeff, links on agencybalance.com. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thanks, Dave.
Subscribe to the podcast at agencybalance.com, Apple, YouTube, or Spotify.